My friends! We recently got something really cool, the leaked concept art for Duel of the Fates, which, if you don't know, was the original title for Star Wars Episode 9, back when it was going to be directed and written by Colin Trevorrow. Now, I've got my mixed feelings about Colin Trevorrow.
If you're not too busy.
I'm pretty busy.
But taking a look at this concept art, I can't help but think about how cool this movie would have been. So without further ado, we're going to be going through this concept art together. I'm going to be showing you guys all the art and just giving you my thoughts on each piece. So very first piece, we have Rey, and she is on board what looks like a Star Destroyer bridge, and she's got dead stormtroopers all around her. And obviously the first thing everyone's going to notice is that double-bladed lightsaber. Would have been really cool to see Rey use her own lightsaber for the duration of the 9th film. I think it would have been a really great way to kind of establish her as her own character with her own legacy rather than just inheriting the legacy of others, to have her kind of become her own Jedi. Of course, contrary to that, she is wearing Luke's Return of the Jedi outfit, which I think is kind of cool. I don't know if that was saying that she would actually have worn that outfit in the film, or if it was just kind of symbolic, like how George Lucas had Luke wearing that outfit because it was all black on the outside, and he wanted to convey that Luke was potentially tempted towards the dark side, and the movie was meant to have you as the audience unsure if Luke would cave to the darkness or not. But of course, the end, the flap flips open and you realize that it was white underneath all along, and Luke, is true to the light even though his actions may have looked dark. So it could have been indicating that Rey was going to have a similar arc in the original Episode 9 Duel of the Fates. Next image, we have Captain Phasma overseeing the public execution of a resistance traitor named Bisk Kova. This image is really cool because we see that they have rallied all the citizens of Coruscant to watch what happens to those who defy the First Order. He is being executed on like some laser guillotine thing, which just looks super awesome. The whole thing feels very French Revolution to me, with the execution and the guillotine, and then the citizens rallied to watch, which I think would have been really cool because for the most part in Star Wars, we've seen, the good army versus the bad army. Even if the good army is smaller and ragtag, we don't see a lot of like Imperial or First Order oppression on civilians or on a planet, or, what Imperial occupation looks like. I think Rebels is one of the only real visual medias to cover it. I mean, we see it in some video games, we see it in some of the books and comics, but Rebels really focused on that a lot, especially with the occupation of Lothal. You got the AT-DPs walking around, and just what Imperial occupation looks like. And so this would have been really cool to see the First Order come in and occupy Coruscant, and just on a civilian level, what Imperial occupation looks like, or First Order occupation looks like. And then in the next picture, we're going to flash to Rey, and Rey is continuing her training with Luke. And I think that would have been just awesome to see because, Rey has so much raw power, and it would have been great to see her, go to Grandmaster Luke, and Luke, fill that role in this film and teach her how to control her power, how to tap into it, and how to, really hone her skills that she has as such raw abilities. And it would have been great to see her actually, work to earn those powers a little bit more, and to see, Luke appreciated as a teacher, as taking on that Yoda Obi-Wan role. And then we're going to flash to a planet called Bonaden? I don't know. Poe Dameron lived there with his grandfather when he was a boy. I don't know if Poe would remember it, considering how young he was when he was taken, but it looks really cool. I love the way this looks visually. It almost feels like Kajimi was inspired by it a little bit. This would have been a really cool planet to go to. And on that planet, we have Rey is being chased by the Knights of Ren, and the Knights of Ren are in their ship, the Knife 9. Now let's talk about the Knife 9 for a second, because that ship looks awesome. It almost feels a little like a separatist ship, or like is it the TIE Striker? Is that the new TIE fighter from Rogue One? I don't know. But anyway, it kind of feels like that, very sleek, very slick. Knights of Ren were obviously supposed to play a bigger role in this film. But this ship looks way cooler than the Night Buzzard, which is that monstrosity of a junk heap that the Knights of Ren fly in Rise of Skywalker, which I understand the junk heap Night Buzzard does fit the Knights of Ren persona a little bit more, very brute force. They use warhammers and axes. They aren't the fine, precise blade of a lightsaber. They're just kind of, brute forcing it. And so, yeah, the Night Buzzard fits their persona a little bit better, but this just looks way cooler. I'm sorry. Oh man, and then this guy. So Kylo Ren goes to Mortis, which if you're not familiar, Mortis was a planet covered in a 3-episode arc of the Clone Wars. It's like a planet where the living force and the cosmic force are like braided together almost. I don't know, it's weird, but like it fades in and out of discoverability, and so Kylo Ren goes there, and he encounters this creature. His name is Tor Valum, and he's been alive for thousands of years. An ancient force wielder strong in the dark side. And to me, this guy looks like a Zepho. If you're not familiar, the Zepho were an ancient race of force wielders, first revealed in Jedi Fallen Order. And as you guys know, video games take years to develop, so I'm almost wondering if Fallen Order was meant originally to set up the Zepho, so that by the time we got this guy, we'd be like, oh, he's from that race. But then, this got scrapped, and, they were already so deep into Fallen Order that they just decided to make the Zepho kind of their own self-contained story. And I think it would have been really cool, though, if this guy was a Zepho and Fallen Order was originally intended to set that up. That would have added more value to Fallen Order, which is already such a great game, but it would have been cool if it was setting up something that we would have got to see in Episode 9. And this guy... he's not confirmed to be a Zepho. I'm going to call him a Zepho. The Zepho guy imposes on Kylo Ren a force vision wherein he must face his grandfather Vader. And you can see his stance. Vader's stance is very Empire Strikes Back. It's almost pyramid-esque, where everything kind of triangulates up towards his helmet. He's holding his saber in the middle of his torso. He's just got this kind of like effortless strength to him, opposed to Kylo, who's got this very wide stance, his elbows out all the way, very broad stance. And that is one of the things I really love about Adam Driver's portrayal of Kylo Ren, is kind of the way he handles a lightsaber. And so it would have been cool to see Kylo Ren, who is just unable to control his emotions, and he is just filled with rage and outbursts, and then Vader, who is the embodiment of pain and who is just very controlled, tempered hatred, just kind of seething, and see them go toe-to-toe. And of course Vader would win. Vader wins this battle and defeats Kylo Ren, and it becomes this dark mirror of the Dagobah sequence where Luke does not want to become Vader, but by defeating Vader realizes that he has the potential to become Vader. It's his head under Vader's helmet. Whereas in here, Kylo Ren wants more than anything to be Vader, and by being defeated by Vader realizes that he can't become Vader. So it's this dark mirror, and be really cool and highlight Kylo Ren's own feelings of inadequacy and just the things he's struggling with. And then we're going to flash back to Coruscant, and the First Order is occupying Coruscant. And again, I just would have loved to see Coruscant at all, but I would have loved to have seen First Order occupation of Coruscant. That would have been just really great, on a civilian level. What does that look like? The people being oppressed by this evil regime. It's not just armies shooting each other with blasters, but this is a reason to take down the First Order. And in this time, Finn, Rose, 3PO, and R2 are having to send out a message from Leia of hope, trying to rally the citizens of the galaxy against the First Order. And we've got this shot. This is like a quiet moment where 3PO and R2 are going through the desolate streets of Coruscant. It was meant to be like a moment of kind of reflection to frame everything, that there's like this tragedy going on everywhere, and there's, the whole world's been uprooted. We switch to Finn. And this is one of the coolest shots in the entire piece, where Finn is standing in front of these cages and he is rallying the citizens of Coruscant against the First Order. He's saying, stand up against this tyranny and oppression. It totally reminds me of Hunchback of Notre Dame, where Phoebus stands on the cages and he rallies the citizens of Paris against Frollo and the Parisian Guard. And it's the same sort of thing where, like, Phoebus was once the captain of the guard, Finn was once a stormtrooper, and he says, hey, I broke free of this tyranny. You don't have to stand down and let the resistance fight for you. This is not a resistance. This is a revolution. Stand with me and stand against oppression and stand against tyranny.
Citizens of Paris, Frollo has persecuted our people, ransacked our city, and now he has declared war on Notre Dame herself. Will we allow it?
And then we're going to flash back to Rey, and she's on Mortis. She is hunting down Kylo Ren. And she's using her double-bladed lightsaber, which again would be so cool. She's got to defeat this beast to get into the forest of Mortis and go after Kylo Ren. And then we pull back, and we're preparing for the big battle. The citizens of Coruscant have taken old Imperial walkers. This was Imperial City. This was the heart of the Empire. So there are old Imperial walkers, and they take these old Imperial walkers, and they're going to go toe-to-toe with the First Order. And they're like mounting spears on them and stuff. It's awesome. And they're painting it, from the drab gray of uniformity to the vibrant colors of freedom and individuality, which would have been really cool because in Star Wars, machines of war, with the exception of the prequels and the Clone Wars, are really relegated towards the dark factions. The Resistance, the Rebellion, they don't get machines of war. And so it would have been cool to see the civilians of Coruscant take these machines of war and have a good reason to use them. That would have been awesome. And then we see them stand toe-to-toe with the First Order. They've got these big old walkers. These are not the guerrilla walkers from Last Jedi. These are new walkers, and we see that they have their AT-STs all lined up, and the civilians of Coruscant rallied behind them. With even, you can see there's some more defected stormtroopers standing there as Finn has rallied all these people. And then here we've got another shot of the Battle of Coruscant, and you can see the stormtroopers are storming up against the civilians, and that is a barricade right there. Look at those, are X-Wings. Oh my gosh. You've got like all these scrapped X-Wings that you can just imagine like 50 people like trying to lift these X-Wings and stack them on top of each other. And this is very French Revolution. And I know Les Mis isn't technically French Revolution, but this is very Les Miserables, where they've built the barricade and they're standing atop the barricade. This guy's even waving the flag on top of the nose of the X-Wing. And they've got the AT-STs as the first line of defense on top of the barricade. And they're preparing for the First Order as they march in formation. Oh my gosh, this would have been the coolest battle scene in Star Wars, period. I mean, I know I'm partial. I love like French Revolution stuff, so I'm not impartial at all. But this would have been so cool, and now I'm sad that we don't get to see this. Oh man, that would have been just the coolest battle scene of all of them on these scrapped X-Wings and fighters and transports and all this other stuff, and they're standing against the First Order. And the battle was meant to be like really dark and really tragic, and actually R2 was supposed to be fatally damaged. They torch his head and destroy R2. He sacrificed himself in this battle, and it was meant to be this really emotional moment for 3PO, where like emotional like we've never seen 3PO before. Like this was meant to be a total climax to his arc, especially, he has this cantankerous relationship with R2, but, in truth, he had no closer friend. And there was this moment where, he breaks down and mourns for his friend. And I would have loved, Anthony Daniels is like my favorite Star Wars actor, or at least he's up there for sure. And I would have given anything to see him play this scene out. And then we'd flash to the battle between Kylo Ren and Rey. And this was meant to be the most grandiose lightsaber fight that we'd ever seen in Star Wars. And it takes place on Mortis, so you can imagine that there's just crazy stuff going on everywhere. And you can see Kylo Ren's new helmet, very Revan-esque. I'm not the first person to point that out, but it does feel very Revan. His cape is different, his cloak is different. All of it feels very Revan. And then, of course, Rey has double-bladed lightsabers. So we got a little bit of a Revan Bastila vibe, which is super cool, and I would have loved to have seen that. And then Luke intercedes in the battle and grabs with his bare hands Kylo Ren's lightsaber. And I just would have loved to have seen that moment. I mean, it would have just been the climactic and powerful Luke that we wanted to see, that we were teased in the EU, that we were told Luke was this powerful being. And to see Luke come in and grab it with his bare hand. This is the same force ability, by the way, that lets you like absorb force lightning and redirect it, lets you catch lightsaber blades. This wouldn't be the first time we've seen this ability, but to see Luke do it would have been awesome. And you can tell in his eyes, like, this is an emotional moment, and this is like, you are fighting against everything Vader died for. Like, Vader turned to the light. You are disgraced to everything Vader died for. And like, that would have been just such an emotional moment. I would have loved to have seen that. All of this just feels like it was a really emotionally charged movie, and like, it looks like it was action packed. Like, there's a lot of battle scenes going on, but everything's kind of building towards these same two battle scenes, where it's the one-on-one confrontation between Rey and Kylo, and then the massive battle between the people of Coruscant and the First Order. And of course, during the Battle of Coruscant, Hux was meant to play a much more serious role. He would have declared himself Supreme Chancellor of the galaxy, and he was in this office where he had this massive window, and he's looking out this window and looking over the Battle of Coruscant. But ultimately, he's defeated not by the resistance, but by the message of hope, that hope, the people stand up. Because he's defeated by hope, he commits suicide with actually a purple lightsaber. He's got like this collection of lightsabers, like this, sick villain who collects the memorabilia of his ancient enemy. And he takes supposedly Mace Windu's lightsaber is red in the concept art, but it's purple in the script. And he commits suicide. And it's kind of meant to be this simultaneously like this dark ending for Hux, but also kind of where it's both shameful, but it's also noble that he is defeated by hope and he surrenders his own life and gives Coruscant over to the people. And the last piece of concept art, I don't think it takes place in chronological order, but we ended on this because it's Leia giving her message of hope to BB-8, and of course she's in the same pose and the same robes that we first saw her in A New Hope, and it is meant to just be this, kind of nod to where everything started. And I can see why a lot of this changed, because so much of the script was dependent on Leia's message of hope. And, of course, Carrie Fisher unfortunately passed away before Episode 9 began even filming. And so, none of this was even possible from the start. And it just kind of, it's tragic. It makes me sad. But ultimately, this looked like it would have been a really great movie. And I am a little bit biased because I love French Revolution stuff. And now that I know that there is even a possibility of a Star Wars thing that had like French Revolution vibes in it, I'm just like disappointed and sad and angry that doesn't exist. So if anyone who has power out there is listening, we want Star Wars French Revolution stuff. Please reuse some of this. Please put it into place somewhere else, because we want that, or at least I want that. Do you guys want that? Let me know in the comments, because as always, I want to know what you guys, my friends, have to say about our favorite galaxy far, far away. If you guys liked the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, join our community, and share with us in our love for Star Wars. And as always, may the lore be with you, always.